Okay, guys. So here's another soapbox. If you don't recall yesterday, I brought up shotguns and games like Fallout and like dabbled a little bit in the Metro 2033 slash light slash Exodus games. And so I thought, why the hell not? Let's talk about one of my biggest pet peeves with the Metro video game series compared to the book. It's not going to be that big of a deal, but it's just kind of my inner gun nut going like insane every single time I kind of pick up the game because I've read some of the books enough to realize that there's differences between how the guns are and how everything is with the guns in the game versus the guns in the book series. So if you don't know, Metro 2033, Metro Last Light, and Metro Exodus, which I'm just going to refer to as the Metro series, is a post-apocalyptic post-apocalyptic, I can't say that word, but you know what I'm saying. Video game taking place and pretty much up until Exodus, um which I would say spoilers, but it's in the trailers, in the Moscow metro system, where it's people trying to survive with no government or anything like that, and they're trying to survive in this new world underground because the top is not suitable for living. And there's a bunch of different guns. There's a bunch of different stuff where people created guns, and it's really kind of creative on how they did it. And the video, and there's different factions that go around and stuff like that. Um, in Exodus, I'm saying spoiler on this. You find out that it's not as bad as as you thought it was throughout the other two games. Not really going to go farther into it, but you explore the surface more. Um, but the one thing that I kind of, again, my inner gun nut going off is I know they're using Soviet era like weapons and like Russian weapons. Um, but I just kind of don't like how they don't distinguish them at all. Um, just saying like all AKs fire this, all this fires this. Um, I don't think it's that thing where you can really just go and change every single one on willy nilly, and every single one you ever come across is the same caliber as every other one. And that's how it puts it in games. Um, and I understand why they do that in the game because a lot of games do it where you pick up ammo and you don't have to worry about ammo type, and you don't have to worry about, well, is it compatible with my gun. Um, I think that one thing I wish they would have done with the Metro series is make it more of, instead of in the heart, like in like Ranger difficulty and stuff like that, where it's less ammo. And from what I recall in the 2033 Redux, if you did Ranger mode, um the a military grade ammo that you picked up was only one round per, even though they're per pickup. It's even though they're showing multiple rounds on the clip, because I believe they came in clips. It wasn't magazines that they came in. It was actual like clip, like stripper clips they were on. Um, I know they're doing that because hey, let's make it harder. But one thing I wish they would have done is made it to where you had to find different types of ammo for guns, or modify your gun to fire a certain type of ammo, such as the bastard being able to accept both Soviet assault rifle style rounds. Um, because as some people may or may not know, the AK line fires multiple different rounds in terms of which version does which. So in the Metro series, in the books, not the video games, in the books they distinguish that the most common version of the AK or Kalashnikov or whatever you want to call it Everybody knows what it is. The most common version that people have in the Metro is the AK 47 or AK 47M or variant of that gun, because the most common ammo type is the Russian 7.62, which is what the AK 47 and all the variants that are based off the AK 47 um fire. And so that's the common thing. But they point out that certain groups don't use the AK-47, they use the AK-74 variants. Um and the AK-74 and the stuff that in variants of that uses the same round, it's a Russian 5.45 by 39, I believe. Um so it's not technically firing the same round as the AR-15. It's a different cartridge. The reason why they did that is because I believe from what the Russian ballistics tests were showing, it's a more accurate round. It got a little bit more range to it. Um, Instead of it being pure kinetic mass, hitting, and that's the force behind it. It tumbles, kind of like what the 5.56 does, and it's better for armor penetration. Just due to the round, how the round is shaped itself and the ballistics. I'm not going to go into all that stuff because that's a completely different video. But it's certain groups have those, and because those groups are comprised mostly of people that are ex-military or at the time that the bombs were falling were military personnel. So a lot of those groups literally are like pretty much Russian military. So they would obviously have the more modern stuff, the stuff that wouldn't be in public hands. That's why a lot of them. That's why they put out that the Rangers, which are basically Russian special forces, um, slash ex-Russian military, that all their people literally go through the Russian military training to get into the group to begin with. All their personnel are equipped with AK-74s, and they are able to sustain their stuff because they know what they're doing, and their stuff is like pretty much the best equipment that you can get because, again, they are the people who know everything about that. Their armorers are the people who are taught exclusively how to maintain the guns from military like guidelines, which, and basically from the stuff that literally is the manufacturer saying it, not kind of secondhand knowledge or something that's like, well, I heard if you do this, it's like, no, they're following the guidelines and they know exactly how to take care of everything. So their stuff is pretty much flawless. They're able to maintain the best quality. They're able to maintain, to make the stuff and be able um to make up for their kind of lack of numbers by their equipment being the best it possibly can be, and their tactics being the best it possibly can be, compared to others. And um, and while others may have numbers and they may have a little bit of like, oh well, we got some little bit of special training, all of them know how to do what the top forces of the other groups know how to do, and it's kind of like that. If you fuck with us, we may be few in numbers, but if you try to wipe us out, you're going to be devastated. We may lose, but you're going to be devastated and can't do anything without it. That's why a lot of people leave them alone. That's why a lot of people come to them in dire needs. Um, I believe in the book they also bring up the AK-74U, which is the short carbine version of the AK-74. Um, Again, 5.45. You also got like the SVS, I believe it's called, the little 9 millimeter subsonic um little sniper rifle that the Russians use. They have that in there. Um, I know for this in Last Light they bring up sniper rifles, but it's going to be a little bit different. But I kind of wish in the Metro series they would kind of distinguish of ammo a little bit more and the differences between the guns and stuff. Instead of in the series, it's every gun fires the same round. Every gun does this. Every gun does that. If I pick up a magazine for this, it will fit in this. I kind of wish there was a little bit of a difference. I know that would have been hard to program, especially seeing as much as people want to go like, well, it's a big game, like a AAA game series. They have nowhere close to the budget as some of these other AAA titles. They're also working. If you actually read the stories of what some of them were saying about when they were making Last Light, is they were smuggling in computers for development across the border because the country they live in, if you bring in stuff like that, um, depending on who you get, the person will steal your stuff and basically tell you to fuck off. So they didn't want like 2 or 3 thousand like dollar computers getting stolen by corrupt government officials. Um, and there's some other stuff I remember reading at the time, but also note they're making their own stuff and they're doing everything. They developed their own engine, developed that stuff like that. I'm not going to reflect on their Exodus stuff because I really kind of am hearing one thing, but I read another. But you know, they did. There was that horrible deal with the Epic Game Store, um, which honestly kind of hurt their hype. Just because at the time what people viewed and kind of still view Epic Game Store as. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it. I've besides me kind of getting into how I like the designs is yeah, I just wish there was a distinguishing between the AK-47 variants and the AK-74 variants, just so you could possibly have two different types of ammo, to where you could to where each version you can use, so to speak, kind of make it more challenging. If they could have added a mode like that, that would have been cool. And so you could still have your kind of casual thing to where it's like, okay, all the guns are like this. You pick up ammo, you can do whatever. Kind of like how like a lot of other video games do. I know like some video games do a variant of it where it's everything runs off of this MO type or this MO type. So it's like, oh, look, this runs off of like a 45 ACP. So I can get 45 ACP. Or this runs off like a 38 Magnum. So, this pistol needs 38 Magnum or stuff like that. So it's kind of like multiple ammo types, but it's really kind of simplified because it's a very distinct thing. And I think with the AK platforms, a lot of people, while still knowing about it, wouldn't be able to tell the minor differences. So that kind of would have been a thing that I think would have been a more advanced level of gameplay that they could have offered. Um, if any of you guys are listening that develop on the Metro series, I really like your games, and I would kind of like to see that in like maybe like a future update or possibly your next game where you do a harder like you do Ranger mode and like a Ranger plus plus mode or something, to where it's different ammo types for your guns. Besides just military grade versus standard grade. Um, but it's kind of like as you progress through the game, you can decide, am I going to do the more common ammo type, but like it's more powerful at times, it's better for certain enemies, just because it has more knockdown power, or do I want the more military style one, which doesn't have its just knockdown power, but it's more lethal, um, kind of thing. Um, as for how they do the weapons in the game, I like how they do the weapons in the game. I touched it a little bit on in the last video with the pump action shot, talking about pump action shotguns and why I kind of want to see them more in more post-apocalyptic games. Is all their stuff seems to be, well, they're trying to keep it more realistic because it's modern days. Because with unlike the Fallout series, the Metro series is more kind of like current event type of thing where nothing really split off, and they're trying to keep it more modern stuff. Um, and so stuff is based off of the AK platform or stuff that already exists, or they're tinkering with stuff. So you have stuff that like the bastard gun or the or their version of the shotgun, semi-auto shotgun that has a rotating kind of revolver style loader system, which is really kind of cool. Which, while being like usable, like it's its own unique twist on stuff, so to say. Like, yeah, like the Shambler has its own unique twist on the shotgun, where you can still say, yeah, it's a cool looking shotgun and it will still perfectly function, but it takes a twist on it enough to make it feel like it's unique and fits in that universe. Um, they're using the air powered guns, which are pretty cool. Um, and I pretty much liked how the feel and look of the series since it began, and I'm hoping that um, I need to go back and beat Exodus because sadly I got over halfway through the game, then my computer crashed and I had to redo it. And sadly, I bought it off Epic Game Store. I'm not bashing Epic Game Store, um, but it erased my save file, and it's kind of disheartening where you're over halfway through a game, and especially when you're getting all the customization bits and stuff to make your guns more suited to how you play, because you know it's kind of disheartening when you have to go when you make all that progress, you get all the customization, you pretty much have your guns loaded out the best way you want them to have loaded out, and you're pretty much to the halfway point of the game. And yeah, kind of sucked when that happens. I need to get back into it, but I want to play the other two games beforehand again, just because I want to go back through that whole series. um but yeah, that's about it. It's just, yeah, I'm just wishing that they would put in a mode that distinguishes between the AK-47 and the AK-74. I know they can't do stuff that's a more modern take, just as like the AK-12 and AK-15. I believe like the AK-102 and stuff, because those are past the dates that the bombs actually fell, um, in the Metro universe. Because I believe in the yeah, I think 2033 is referring to its Metro, like it's the like 2033 in the metro in the whole series when the game starts up, and it's like 20 years after the bomb fell. So like it's like 2013 or something. And so they made stuff where they predicted what stuff would be, such as the AK-12. I Is it called that? The bullpup version of the AK that they had in the first game, and I believe in Last Light. Where it's a bullpup version of the AK. It's a pretty cool design where they made their own thing. Where it's like, hey, we could see the Russians actually, the Russian military actually going and developing that. Um, some cool little stuff like that. But yeah, that's about it. But I will like to point out again, if you haven't played any of the Metro series, um, I would highly recommend checking it out. Metro Redux, the bundle is Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, the redone versions of it, which um which are actually a really cool thing. What they did is the Redux is basically they took um Metro 2033, put it did it with the engine on Metro Last Light. They made some improvements on both games. Um, with 2033 you see a lot more of the improvements on how they did like the weapon customization system, because in the original 2033 you couldn't customize your weapons. You had to find that version of the weapon in either a shop or like on the ground or something. Like one of the best like the AK-12, the best version of that you had to buy in a through a shop, and if you didn't buy in that shop, the only other version you could find wasn't as good, so to speak. So what they did in Last Light is they made it to where you can customize and just swap out what you wanted on the fly. Like you could go to a shop and be like, okay, well, I want this attachment on it. I want this attachment, and you would pay to get that attachment. So no matter what, if you had the money, you can get that weapon and put whatever attachment it was. Um, they kind of took it a step further in Exodus, where on the fly you can swap out your parts, which is kind of cool. But they added that in the 2033 Redux. They redid some of the levels to where some of the stuff that had loading screens in between, that the like the library level, where it was there was a level that was you going to the library, and when you get there it goes into a loading screen, and then it loads into the next level. The next level starts off with something trying to kill you. Like, it's like, oh look, you waited there a little bit, then like a bastard um came in, or was it bitches? I forgot exactly what it's called. The flying like gargoyle bat creatures was trying to kill you. And like it was you guys running from it and like them shutting the door, and that was like the start of that level. What they did in Redux is they took both of those levels, combined them into one level, and put a sequence in between it to explain what happened between you getting there and it calls and you having to escape into the library for protection. That's a cool thing. Again, they added the weapon customization system from Last Light, which is fantastic. And the best thing I think they did with both games is they made it to where you can choose how the game plays for you. Because if you because the original version of 2033 is very like survival esque gameplay, where you had to like really kind like where you could still spray and pray. You really had that tension of not knowing where you would get your ammo, and like you wouldn't like in hoping you didn't run out, so to speak. And it was really more tense in that level. Besides, like if you're at a station you could buy stuff, so you had to prepare between stations. um in Last Light, the original version of it was more shooter based, to where you would find more stuff and you can, go more gun crazy. Which I kind of like that too, because it establishes in Last Light you would have more access to ammo, because who you're dealing with. Um, I like that aspect of it. But what they did with the Redux is either version you can make 2033 feel more of a like a open shooter, or you can make Last Light feel like more of a survival game, and you can play each game like that, which is a cool feature. And I'm just realizing I'm ranting about how much I like the Metro series and what they've done with it. Um, so I'm just gonna end like that, and I'm just gonna put they're pretty cheap. Go check them out. It's a fantastic series. If you like Russian like games with Russian-based weapons, if you like post-apocalyptic games, if you like games that have an original twist to them, um, you'll like it. There's very good characters in the games. Um, very interesting world building. Very interesting take on the post-apocalyptic genre. I would say, because a lot of stuff that we see in America doesn't do a Russian take on it. It's always like a Western civilization take on it, kind of like with Mad Max, kind of like what happens in Australia, or everything in America is what happens in fucking America. Um, So yeah, the 2033 series, the Metro series, is honestly a fantastic take if you're trying to get stuff like that. Also, maybe check out Stalker. That's a good series. Um, but yeah, I'm going to stop ranting now, and I honestly hope that you found this entertaining, and I hope you um my ranting has at least made it to where you want to check out the games. Um, so until next time, later, guys.